How far down could you go before turning back? 2 kilometers beneath a mountain? 4 kilometers underground, where the surrounding rock is hot enough to kill you? Or nearly 11 kilometers beneath the ocean, where the pressure can destroy almost anything humans send down there? These places are real, and some remain so difficult to reach that we still don't know exactly what lies at the bottom. Today, we're counting down 7 of the deepest places on Earth. Welcome to the TOP7. If you enjoy exploring the strangest and most extreme places on our planet, hit the like button and subscribe for more. Now, let's descend into the darkness. Number 7. Hranice Abyss. Hidden beneath an ordinary-looking forested hillside in the Czech Republic is a flooded cave that seems to have no end. The Hranice Abyss is considered the deepest known underwater cave in the world. But there's one major problem with that description. No one has actually found the bottom. In 2016, explorers sent a remotely operated vehicle through the narrow opening and into the warm, mineral-rich water below. The machine passed 200 meters, then 300, then 400. Finally, at a depth of 473 meters, the vehicle had to stop, not because it had reached the bottom, but because its cable had reached its limit. Sonar readings indicated that the cave continued downward. The water inside Hranice Abyss is unusual as well. It is fed by geothermal sources rising from deep underground, and conditions become increasingly difficult as you descend. Visibility quickly deteriorates. The water becomes more heavily mineralized, and eventually, natural light disappears completely. Divers exploring the upper sections have described descending into cloudy, warm water that gradually swallows everything around them. Below a certain depth, human eyes become almost useless. Only instruments can continue looking into the darkness. And somewhere beneath that last measured point, the cave keeps going. How far? We still don't know. Number 6. Krubera Cave. Now we're going much deeper. In the Western Caucasus, beneath the Veryovkina Massif, lies Krubera Cave, also known as Veryovkina Cave. For years, it held the title of the deepest known cave on Earth. Krubera reaches approximately 2,197 meters below its entrance. Getting anywhere near the bottom is an expedition rather than a simple cave exploration. Teams must navigate vertical shafts, narrow passages, underground streams, and flooded sections extending through kilometers of complete darkness. Explorers establish underground camps at different depths, using fixed ropes to descend enormous vertical drops. Communication becomes increasingly difficult as teams move deeper. Beyond roughly 1,500 meters, explorers can become effectively isolated from the outside world. At the bottom lies a flooded passage known as the terminal sump. In 2012, cave diver Gennady Samokhin entered this sump in near-freezing water and pushed another 52 meters below the waterline. Imagine the situation. You're more than 2 kilometers underground, surrounded by rock, submerged in freezing water, and operating in absolute darkness. If your equipment fails, rescue may be impossible. The final measured depth reached 2,197 meters below the entrance. For several years, Krubera was the deepest known cave on Earth. Then explorers found something slightly deeper nearby. Number 5. Veryovkina Cave. Less than 15 kilometers from Krubera lies another entrance into the Veryovkina Massif. Veryovkina Cave. In 2018, an expedition confirmed that the cave descends approximately 2,212 meters below its entrance, around 15 meters deeper than Krubera. That made Veryovkina the deepest known cave on Earth. 15 meters may not sound like much, but when you're already more than 2 kilometers underground, every additional meter comes at an enormous cost. Explorers spent weeks descending through vertical shafts, tight passages, underground waterways, and sections that had never been mapped. Below 1,800 meters, they entered places no human being had ever seen. Every unexplored passage created another decision. Which direction continues downward? Which opening becomes a dead end? And which narrow passage is worth squeezing through? During one expedition, the team reportedly lost radio communication with the surface for 3 days. For those 3 days, the people above had no reliable way of knowing what was happening below. Conditions near the bottom are brutal. Water temperatures can approach 2 degrees Celsius, humidity remains close to 100%, and the air stays only slightly above freezing. More than 2 kilometers of rock separate the deepest explorers from the world above. But even Veryovkina seems shallow compared with what comes next. Number 4. Imponeng Gold Mine. Imagine commuting 4 kilometers straight down just to reach your workplace. That's the reality of Imponeng Gold Mine in South Africa. Its deepest working areas extend roughly 4,000 meters beneath the surface, making it one of the deepest mining operations ever created. At those depths, heat becomes one of the greatest dangers. The surrounding rock can reach temperatures of around 60 degrees Celsius or higher. Without powerful cooling and ventilation systems, working conditions would quickly become unbearable. Industrial refrigeration is therefore essential to keeping underground areas cool enough for miners to operate. And all of this effort is necessary to extract gold from narrow deposits buried kilometers beneath the surface. Workers descend through an enormous underground network of shafts and tunnels, entering an environment completely separated from the world above. 4 kilometers underground, no sunlight, enormous geological pressure, and surrounding rock radiating intense heat. Imponeng shows just how far humans are willing to descend for valuable resources. But from this point onward, we're leaving dry land behind, because the next places aren't measured in thousands of meters underground. They're measured in kilometers of ocean. Number 3. Tonga Trench. The Pacific Ocean contains the deepest waters on Earth. Most people have heard of the Mariana Trench, but fewer know about its extraordinary neighbor, the Tonga Trench. Stretching roughly 2,500 kilometers through the southwestern Pacific, the Tonga Trench contains a point known as Horizon Deep. Measurements place it at approximately 10,800 meters below sea level. That's nearly 11 kilometers of water overhead. At those depths, pressure exceeds 1,000 times atmospheric pressure at sea level. Sunlight disappeared kilometers above. Temperatures are extremely low, and almost everything that reaches the bottom must survive conditions completely alien to humans. The Tonga Trench has also been explored far less extensively than the Mariana Trench. Much of what scientists know comes from robotic vehicles and remotely operated instruments rather than direct human observation. Large sections remain poorly explored, and that's perhaps the most unsettling thing about places this deep. We know they're there, we can measure them, but we've barely seen what's inside them. Number 2. Mariana Trench. Now we arrive at the most famous deep-sea location on Earth, the Mariana Trench. Its deepest region, Challenger Deep, reaches roughly 10,900 meters beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean. Put Mount Everest at the bottom, and its summit would still remain underwater. At Challenger Deep, the pressure exceeds 1,000 atmospheres. The temperature is only slightly above freezing. There is no sunlight, no plants, no photosynthesis. Just an enormous world of cold water, darkness, and crushing pressure. In 1960, Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh made the historic descent aboard the bathyscaphe Trieste. Their journey downward took nearly 5 hours. More than half a century later, filmmaker James Cameron made a solo descent in 2012, spending hours exploring and filming near the bottom. The environment appeared almost completely desolate, but microscopic life tells another story. Researchers have discovered microorganisms capable of surviving under the extraordinary pressures found in the deepest parts of the trench. Even here, life has found a way to exist. And yet Challenger Deep still isn't the deepest humans have managed to reach into our planet. For number 1, we have to return to land. Number 1. Kola Superdeep Borehole. In 1970, Soviet scientists began drilling into the Kola Peninsula in northwestern Russia. They weren't searching for oil. They weren't looking for gold. They wanted knowledge. Their goal was to penetrate Earth's crust and retrieve physical samples from depths humans had never directly studied before. The project became known as the Kola Superdeep Borehole. Drilling continued for years. As the borehole descended, progress became increasingly difficult. The rock grew hotter, equipment struggled, conditions became far more extreme than researchers had expected. By 1989, the deepest borehole had reached 12,262 meters, more than 12 kilometers straight into Earth's crust. At that depth, temperatures reached around 180 degrees Celsius, far hotter than scientists had predicted. Researchers also encountered unexpected geological conditions, including water trapped deep within the rock and microscopic fossils in ancient rock samples. Eventually, the temperature became too extreme for drilling to continue effectively. The project was abandoned, and the borehole was sealed. Today, a metal cap covers an opening only about 23 centimeters wide. It doesn't look impressive from the surface, but beneath it is a shaft extending more than 12 kilometers into the planet. And here's the incredible part. We still barely scratch the surface. Earth's crust continues for many kilometers beyond the deepest point humans drilled, and beneath it lies the mantle, extending almost 3,000 kilometers deeper. We spent decades drilling just over 12 kilometers. Then the heat stopped us. Everything below remains beyond our direct reach. Perhaps the strangest thing isn't how deep humans have traveled. It's how little we've actually explored. There are still caves whose bottoms haven't been reached, ocean depths rarely visited, and thousands of kilometers of Earth beneath us that no human technology has ever touched. So here's the question. How deep would you be willing to go? Tell us in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.